I've always heard from my dad, as long as I'm paying your car insurance, you can't have a relationship.
What do
So
you think?
again, the word dating is the wrong word.
Or-
But getting to know somebody to be married,
Yeah.
it all depends on the situation, the person, the approval of your priest and your family, and your readiness. That's a great question to start up with. Purity is much bigger than that. It's the way we think, it's the way we look, it's the way we hear, the way we listen, it's the way we carry out our life. Purity is an everyday thing. It's not like that one thing, if I don't do it, I'm going to be pure. No. Purity is a way of life.
Welcome back to Teen Talk. My name is Jumena, and I'm here with Mina and Philo, and we're honored to be joined with Father Daniel from St. Barbara's Coptic Orthodox Church.
Good to be here.
So our topic today is on relationships as teens. So I think a good first question to open this up is, what would you define as a relationship as a teenage relationship?
That's a great question to start up with. So the boundaries and the definitions get a little bit gray at this age. So most people would think because they're just talking with somebody every day or texting or have a streak that we're just friends. But anything that makes two people text individually, not in a group, is a relationship between a boy and a girl. So I know this is a very broad definition, but that's a start of a relationship. So when somebody tells me, like a boy tells me, I talk to that girl every day, we have a streak, we text in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night, and this and that. And she's just a friend, we just open up about things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's pure. I said, how about your guy friends? How come? And I mentioned some names of his guy friends. And how come you're not texting him in the morning? How come you're not texting him at night? How come you're not opening up to him? Why are you opening up to her?
Yeah, those good morning texts, those good night texts. I don't even get that from my parents.
So we have to like pay attention to these things, because sometimes it's like slips in and you're not even aware that this is turning into something that's not. So that's the definition of a relationship. So you don't have to label it as that, but if those things are happening, then you already are in a relationship.
So where would you think you put the line between a relationship and then dating?
Okay, so dating comes in when I want to meet that person. So now you move past the good morning phase and the good night phase and the opening up phase. Now we need to, just move it up to the next level. How about we have some ice cream and open up a little bit more?
Yeah.
So that's the next stage. So that's natural evolution of that. Once you start there, it's natural to go there. And if you see yourself drifting in that direction, know that that's the wrong track that you're on. And there's no really exceptions. If you're in a group of boys and girls, and you have church events and you're together and you're always talking as a group, there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody, not a priest or a servant, would disagree with that. It's when the things take turn that you're turning more private conversation with one individual, one-on-one, and the one-on-one keeps becoming more intense. This is the way to dating. And it gets worse. So now you met for ice cream, the next day you're going to skip school, or you're going to leave early from school, or you're going to hide it from your parents, or things will keep getting worse once you go down that road.
So a group of like three girls, is that bad? Like 3 boys and 3 girls in a group with that?
I think even number of each sets a stage for like 3 different conversations.
It's not just a hangout.
So like 5 and 2, or like what's a good number?
We cannot really put numbers on it. The idea is there's a healthy group setting that we know we're all group. There's nothing going on. We're all brothers and sisters. We're hanging out together. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
But when there is a hint, a flavor of, yes, we're a group, but in that group, there's 4 subgroups
Group dating.
Yeah.
that having their own conversations, then that you're kind of beating the system, right? You're trying to make it look like a group, but it's not a group. So you have to be careful with that. With a group, I mean a group. There's no secondary gain. There is nothing. You're just hanging out as friends, having a good time, and that's the end of it. So
you'd say there is, like, we should discern a difference between our guy friends and our friends, our girls. There's a difference in how we treat them, how we text them.
Absolutely. I think at this age, I think you need to bond more with your guy friends. If you're a guy, you need to bond more with your girlfriends. If you're a girl, build yourself up spiritually, maturity-wise, even like psychologically, how you deal with things. And when you do that, that sets you for the next stage that's going to come in the years to come, that you're ready to have the other relationship. But if you really pull the trigger too fast on that relationship, you're not equipped, you're not ready. This is just a reflex reaction that you learn from the guys and the girls at the school. And really, you're going to cause more damage.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that damage later in the episode.
So I've always heard people forget what dating was originally for. It like what the end goal is, a marriage,
Absolutely.
a family.
That's why I don't like the word dating. Even like older youth, or like, they have jobs or in college ready to graduate, they're ready to get married. Whenever they say, I want to see that person, say, be careful, don't call it dating. Say, I'm getting to know that person to marry her.
Yeah.
Some people use the word courtship. It's another good word for, it's a way to marriage. But the idea of dating, that we're just having fun, somebody to hang out with, we're going to watch a movie, we're going to have ice cream, we're going to do this, and there's no end in sight. Whatever happens, who knows if we're going to. This is the high school kind of mindset.
Yeah, just that short fling.
This is wrong.
So like, what
Absolutely
age
wrong.
should we start dating at? What do
So
you think?
again, the word dating is the wrong word.
Or-
But getting to know somebody to be married, it all depends on the situation, the person, the approval of your priest and your family, and your readiness. But I tell most people it's halfway through college is a good start point.
So like,
So it's not when you first start college, because you're still trying to figure out your way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's no point if you fail out from college.
Yeah.
So when you start out, know what you're doing, start establishing yourself. And then when something happens throughout the way there, it's okay from that point forward. But again, your priest, your parents, people that you love will have an input that you're ready for it. It's not just, I'm going to say when you're 22, hey, it's 22, I have to find somebody,
Yeah.
So you have to use discernment. But high school is never a good age.
Okay.
Take it as a rule, is never a good age. Never a good age. I tell guys and gals, like, we're humans. And sometimes as your emotions are developing and you might think this person is good or you're interested in them, if these are thoughts that you disclose to your father of confession, it's good. And it's good to keep it at a level of thoughts. Later on, you can act on them when you're ready. But if you act on them now, that's when everything gets messed up. You guys get that big difference? Are you with me or?
Yeah.
So you'd say, when you say tell your father of confession, tell him alone. Maybe also your parents, but don't go around telling your friends.
Absolutely. That's a huge mistake that guys make. And all the guys know that so-and-so's interested in that girl.
Yeah.
And it just creates,
It builds up that pressure.
and also creates a hostility between the two, like and bad reputation and talk and gossip and so many other things, and sometimes has a negative effect. For example, if you share it with the guys who don't have the Christian wisdom or they're not trying to really, they might encourage you to pursue it, or might encourage the girl to go for it, and kind of, how guys talk in your age.
Yeah.
They kind of motivate you to go for it.
Yeah.
And it's a wrong path. But if you talk to people who are godly and care about God, they will talk you out of it. So it depends on who you share to. So the idea is only share with your father of confession. And if one of your parents you're more comfortable sharing that with, go for it and share with them. I think that's going to keep you safe. We learn from the Proverbs, in the multiplicity of counsels, what happened? There is safety. Like when you have people that guide you on, you're going to be safe. But when you are just acting on your own, listening to your age group only, then there's no, the opposite of safety is what? Destruction, unsafety,
Danger.
whatever.
What do you think about guys talking about girls and girls talking about guys? Would
The
that be
gossip.
the gossip, yeah. Would that be considered a form of like dating, but like not in a sense of like?
It's bad and sinful and also
Okay.
inflammatory. And that word means you're inflaming people's emotions and ideas by that conversation. So you're causing people to sin. And you know that the Bible teaches us that if somebody causes anybody to sin, is what?
They're punished sevenfold.
It's the punishment is much worse. So we have to be careful that our conversations are not leading people to sin. And also some of the guys' conversation, it's not pure,
It's not
it's
pure,
not
yeah.
Christian. And how is that acceptable? And then they come and take communion where they're 20 years. And there's that duplicity, right? That they live in two separate worlds. So I suggest that really when you guys talk about the guy stuff, talk about the game, talk about the church, talk
Yeah.
about your needs. When the girls talk about, but when we are always talking about guys, what happens when you go to your house and sit in your room? You're going to be thinking about those things that you talked about. And what's that going to make you do? It's going to stimulate your mind to think about that guy or think about that girl. And it's going to lead you to
It's a
places.
rabbit hole.
Exactly.
I know you told me before, as a church, we like to cut sin off from the beginning. We don't like to fall into it. We cut it off when we see it forming.
Absolutely. And when you do that, it's much easier to deal with. When it gets deeper and has roots that are much deeper, it's so hard to eradicate. It's so hard to remove. So
For those who have like fallen into like this sin or have like continued talking or dating or starting a relationship, how can they overcome that?
So that's a very good question to Jumana. I think the first step is for them to realize that this is wrong. This is not Christian. That's not what Christ asked me to do. That's not what the Bible asked me to do. And also how I go from here, the first guide would be your father of confession. I think that there must be a conversation, honest conversation between the person and their father of confession, where they can open up and tell them all these things. And then the father of confession knows them, he knows their situation. He's going to help them like with certain exercises or certain like canon that they do every day to help them get out of that. So I would defer that the first step is your father of confession. The second thing is really the people that you surround yourself with are the people that encourage you one way or the other. So if you surround yourself with a group of people that encourages that kind of behavior, more likely than not, you're going to be likely to do it. And honestly, take this and like think about all the people that you know. And in school, think about all the people that do the stuff that we're talking about. You're going to find that the friends groups all do that. They encourage that. They're okay with that. This is permissible. But when you surround yourself with a friend group that shuns that out, they have the same mindset. This is not for us. Not now. This is for later. We should not be talking about this. Let's get busy playing football or do something else and just keep going. You're going to find them less likely to be in that route. Okay?
So we've been talking a lot. What do we do if we're in a situation like this? But what do we do if we have a friend in a situation like this? How do we get them out? Do we refer them? What do we do?
That's a good question. So if your friend is in that situation, of course you can advise them lovingly, not judgmentally. And also you encourage them to speak with their father of confession. Tell them, please talk to Abuna about this. You know, this is for your own good. This might not lead to a good outcome. Like you have to be lovingly. You cannot say this is wrong. You're going to hell. You cannot talk like that. But you have to encourage them on the right path. And the right path always starts with their father of confession. Because Abuna will talk to him and guide him and tell him what to do. And if he really wants to change, he will. If he really doesn't want to change, he's not going to even listen to his father of confession. So
outside of religious reasons of why we shouldn't date, what reasons should we stay away from dating outside of because the Bible says not to?
Okay, so before we get to the non-biblical reasons, we have to think, what are the biblical reasons? The first and the most important thing that God calls us to be what? Holy. Holy, a life of holiness. And holiness or purity doesn't just mean that I should not do that one bad thing or that one thing and that will make me unholy or impure. Purity is much bigger than that. It's the way we think, it's the way we look, it's the way we hear, it's the way we listen, it's the way we carry out our life. Purity is an everyday thing. It's not like that one thing, if I don't do it, I'm going to be pure. No. Purity is a way of life. So doing that puts you in the way of impurity and away from holiness. So that leads you away from God. So that's why this is not the right time for it, because you're not equipped to deal with it in a way that you remain holy. Later on, when you guys are ready, you're holy, you're doing the right things, and you're leading up to marriage. So there's no danger in that. The church is not worried about you. The non-biblical reasons also are when somebody is in high school. Okay? You guys are trying to figure out your identity, trying to figure out yourself. You need to work on yourself and get into a good college, and you need to build yourself in the church and learn your relationship with God and how to bond and how to pray and how to enjoy the liturgy. There's a lot of things that happen in high school years. So imagine that you start talking to somebody like that and they suck all the time and the energy from your life. All of it. You don't have time to work on yourself. You don't have time to think about yourself. You don't have time to think about your career. You don't have time to think about getting to a good college. You don't have time to think about tasbaha. You don't have time to think about your prayer life. It's not on your mind. You're too occupied. You guys are talking all the time. There's no time to do anything. So what kind of effect that will have on you long term? It's those years you're not going to be able to get back.
Drowning out your base. That base that
Exactly.
you're building cripples it.
Absolutely. when you invest those years in the right thing, you're going to find yourself later, you're ready, you're more than ready, and you're on the right track to success 360, like in every aspect, not just your church life, but your social life, your academic life, every life. So in other words, at this age, this is a distractor. It's something that will affect your spiritual life. It's something that will affect your relationship with God. And also something that's really important that I didn't mention in the beginning. At this age, you guys need to learn how to love God as a person and know Him on a personal level. I know God, I know Christ, and I love Him. And you have that personal relationship. If somebody else takes that mind and attention away from you at this age, it's really hard to build that relationship later. Because you didn't even learn how to do it with God, how are you going to apply it to somebody else? But when you learn that selfless love with God, how God loves you selflessly and unconditionally, you learn how to apply that later to other people. And these are the people that are successful in their love and their relationships. So that's another aspect that we didn't touch on, but it's very important to think about.
All right, so Bruno, what do you think about boys following girls on like Snapchat or Instagram, and then vice versa, like them following
It all depends.
on social media? Okay,
It all depends. If it's a normal following, by normal I mean it just like
just a following.
you're
Yeah,
following them. You're not taking personal interest in everything they post, and you're doing it.
yeah,
You guys know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's a normal interest. It's a general interest, not a too personal
Too personal.
interest.
Yeah.
It's okay. But when you see that you're doing this because of personal interest, and you keep checking every 2 seconds if you put something, then
Yeah,
we'll have a problem.
yeah.
Then you're doing this for the wrong reasons. You're distracted. You're just trying to find a way to communicate with that person. And so again, it depends on this discernment. Is it
Right.
just a general interest like everybody else,
Or
or
just
I'm
personal.
following that person because I'm thinking about them?
And then back to your point about like streaks, is that like bad in your opinion? Like streaks?
Well, if
and-
it's a boy and a girl and they're talking all the time, then that's a problem.
I just want to say, I think he's talking about snap streaks.
yeah,
Yeah,
Wait,
Snapchat
Snapchat
streaks.
streaks. Yes.
Yeah,
They send pictures of the ceiling and of their
I wanna-
toes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
seen
but
it.
like so like those pictures, would you like consider them as like a sort of dating, or just
It is a form of
streaks?
dating, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So through social media, like you're
Okay.
dating through an app that you communicate through, and after that, there are going to be other steps that will evolve from there. But
Okay.
it's already a start.
So I just want
And again, that goes back to that goes
Yeah.
back to the idea of taking a conversation private.
Yeah,
And the Snapchat streak does that. Takes a conversation private.
but it just like pictures.
So I just want to. So these snap streaks, a lot of people do them, and I don't really do them because I find them a waste of time. But they'll go. So it's how many times can you two snap each other once a day, and it builds up like you snapped each other 400 days in a row, 300 days in a row. I don't do it because I think it's a waste of time. But a lot of people, they're obsessed with it. It's not they're obsessed with the person. It's that number. Like I've been consistent with this for 1,000 days.
That's
Like,
true.
they post it. It's a big deal.
I see what you're saying, but again, the point here is not just that. If it's again in the general sense, I'm doing it, even
With
though that's a
every-
different story altogether.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
Yes.
that was a social media
I
issue.
think it's dumb.
But what I'm talking about in terms of dating, it is when I take the conversation private and the communication is getting more and more and increasing, and again, it's taken over a lot of my communication. So that's the part. So the streak itself is not the issue. It's if I use it as a platform for increasing communication to the
That's right,
person.
yeah.
So is any form of communication like privately bad in your sense?
It depends. Well, let's say you're in a class.
Yeah.
And there was an assignment that you missed, and the only answer you can get from one of your friends,
Mhm.
and you ask her, "Hey, how about that assignment?" She said X, Y, and Z. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that so far.
That's normal.
But
Okay.
if your next text, "Hey, what's up? What are you up to?"
Okay.
Then that conversation immediately left that normalcy
Homework
and went
yeah.
into a different direction.
Okay.
Do you get the point?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just trying to give you an analogy so you
So
understand.
it's more like specific on.
Don't make
Yeah.
that girl special. Don't treat her different than you treat any other one of your
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's a simple, direct question, sort of normal conversation, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
But when a conversation takes a personal turn that we two are having a conversation,
Then it's
then you go in a different direction.
I understand.
What other questions you guys have?
So maybe go ahead.
How do you feel about people nowadays? Like they think, oh, I'm making money. They think they're mature. They think they're ready for a relationship.
Yeah.
They go into it. I've always heard from my dad, as long as I'm paying your car insurance, you can't have a relationship. But if someone's paying their own car insurance and someone's got their own money, someone probably thinks they're ready for a relationship. So what do you
I
tell them?
think to your dad's credit, he's trying to make a point. It's not literal. It's not,
I don't know.
yeah, it's not literal. So it's not, the point's not the car insurance. The point is maturity and stability. So this goes back to the idea that we talked about, the counselors, your father of confession, your parents, the people that care about you. If you have their input, they'll be the best assessors of your maturity. They'll be the one most likely to tell you if you're in high school, no matter who's paying your car insurance, that this is not the time.
All right.
No matter what. But later on, once you get to college and start establishing yourself, and then there's a discussion. Is it now? Could we wait? Now we can actually have the conversation.
When you have the end goal in mind that this is going to lead to a family.
Yes, absolutely. And you have the blessing of your father of confession, your
Yes.
parents.
And obviously her dad.
Well, that comes next after you start. I mean, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But the point is, when you do it the right way. If it's something that's done, and I'm not trying to labuna about it because I'm embarrassed, and I'm not telling my dad about it because he's going to get mad, then you know it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know it's wrong without a word.
If you have to think that it's wrong, it's probably
Yeah,
wrong.
absolutely. That's a good rule of thumb too.
So
So-
does so does maturity and stability play a bigger role than the age itself?
Absolutely. Some people are 30 and they're not mature at all.
Yeah, I know someone like
Some
that.
people are
Yeah.
22 and they're mature. So, and again, this goes back to the person and the involvement of the father of confession in the family. So that's why when people do it the right way, and you have all these inputs in the relationship, that relationship is most likely to succeed. But when people take it in their own hands and think, I pay my car insurance, I can do it, then that's a different, you're leading yourself to failure. This will fail. And things like, I know people that started dating in high school and they could have been later in life perfect for each other.
Yeah.
But because things got messed up, even between the families at the high school level,
Okay.
that no matter how mature, how old they are in the future, this will never happen.
The
It's
right
not-
person at the wrong time.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful. So if you applied the rule that let's wait, this is not the time. Yes, I'm interested, but now's not the time. I'll think about that later. I'll wait a couple of years. We're friends. We're brothers and sisters for now. Future, we'll see what happens. This attitude would have changed everything. So that's the attitude I'm trying to have you guys have, that there is a lot of benefit and blessing in waiting and being patient, not acting on emotions like all the kids around you. Not every time you have a reflex, you act on it. You can't do that. There's self-control that has to be practiced. There's patience that have to be pursued. There's something called the right timing. If you're in high school, again, the point is, again, it's never the right timing. Never the right timing.
So what I'm hearing is just get dating completely out of your mind. It's not something you should be thinking
In
about.
high school, absolutely.
out of here.
Absolutely not. If you have an interest, like I said, disclose it to your father of confession, and it's most likely wait.
Keep it to yourself.
Well, yeah, exactly. And later on, if you pursue it, it's going to succeed. But if you pursue it at this moment, it's not going to. It's not going to.
So I know like traditionally you get married more early in life. I know like some parents think that, but I know like nowadays it's not the way to go.
There's no set age.
Okay.
It all depends on the person. It all depends on the situation. I mean, some people get married when they're 30. Some people
Yeah.
get married when they're 35. Some people get married when they're 25. It all depends on the person, the situation, the circumstances. There's no
there-
right and wrong answer.
Is there an age where it's like too late to
I
start
think when
dating?
people wait out, like let's say somebody, start, being so picky about everybody
Yeah,
and start
yeah.
rejecting every single person, and now they're 45 and they're
Yeah.
okay. No, something's wrong. Like you can't be like that.
But also like some majors in college take
yeah.
like 15 years
But,
to.
but in that process, you meet a lot of people though, and there's a lot of planning that happens, and that's a totally different story. That's why I'm saying it all depends on the person and the
Maturity, yeah.
situation.
Okay,
Yeah. So
sounds good. So like no need for like income to be made to start dating.
that's
What do you-
necessary though.
Okay, yeah.
But for example, let's say somebody is in grad school. They're
Yeah.
going to graduate in 3 years and be, let's say, a dentist. I'm
Okay.
just saying.
Yeah, of course.
So they're not making income today, but they can
Eventually,
get to know somebody, work on the relationship, and start working. And then when they graduate in 3
They
years,
have
they're
a
going to be ready
base.
to get married. They have a base to work off.
yeah.
But when you have no foundation, no direction, then what's the point? That's not really the dating we're talking about, right? This is something else. This is just like having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're going to turn into our anonymous questions from our followers. So Our first question is dating really bad at this age?
So the question was answered in this episode already. And the word bad is really the danger that comes with it, the how we can veer us off course. So basically, that person should listen to the episode. He's going to get the ideas that we discussed.
Second question is, if you start dating and break up, how do you explain it to your father of confession?
That's a good one. So being with a father of confession, you have to be honest. I think the best thing, the best advice, do not be ashamed, do not be shy to share anything with your father of confession. Your father of confession has your back. He loves you unconditionally. He's not going to get mad. He's not going to remember you for that. And he's not going to, mark you in a way or another in the future. Just be honest with him and tell him what happened so he can guide you. And the idea that somebody was in a relationship at this age and broke up, we have bigger problems. Have bigger problems. That means that they're ready to do something else after that and repeat the same mistakes. And that's exactly what we're talking about. When the person is not ready, this is more likely to happen. There's a beautiful book called Kissing, Dating, Goodbye.
That's a great book.
Yeah, that book was written by somebody who's not Coptic, who's not Orthodox, and how he taught his daughter not to date during the high school years. And it's a really good read. I recommend a lot of, a lot of you to read it. It's going to give you a perspective how dating in early age and breaking up in later in life, it can affect your decision making. It can affect how you think about marriage. It can affect divorce. Because when people start dating in this age and things don't go well, what's going to happen? Let's break up.
I've actually seen a statistic. It was like the more partners someone had before getting married, the more
Higher.
statistically likely to divorce
Yes,
in that wedding.
yes, exactly. And that's what the book says.
Really?
Yeah, more or less. I mean,
Yeah,
that's one of the
because
points.
you get
of the book.
accustomed to you don't like the relationship, break it
Just
up,
walk away.
not work on it.
Yeah, exactly. And the person is not matured or equipped emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. So what's going to happen is going to keep repeating that mistake for life. That's it. There's no guidance. So that book really answers a lot of those questions from a non-biblical perspective. This is a guy who's teaching his daughter not to date and covers a lot of good points.
Yeah, I feel like just a lot of people feel like really shameful about it and feel like their father of confession would judge them about it. But in reality, they've probably heard a lot more.
Absolutely. There's nothing, this is a rule of thumb. There's nothing, just like the car payment thing, the car insurance. There's nothing you can say to your father of confession that he hasn't heard it before. Impossible. There's nothing you can say that he hasn't heard it before. And there's nothing that you can say that he's going to say, oh, I'm going to make a mental list of that. He's going to hear that 7,000 times in the same day. He's not going to remember who did what and who said what. That's it. That's the end of it. And the whole point of talking to your father of confession is your salvation. Is that for you to be purified, for you to come to Christ again and learn. And he's looking out for you. He wants you to succeed and be saved. So you have to remember that. That's really the goal. Abuna has no other objective other than your salvation. So if you have that in mind, you're going to be motivated to speak with him and be open with him. And Abuna will guide you, will tell you what you need to do, but you have to listen. If you really want to benefit, listen. Like if you go to the doctor and he tells you here's some antibiotics, you have to take them for 5 days, and you go home and throw the antibiotic away, and you get sicker, you don't get better. So is that the doctor's fault? No. So you have to listen to what you're asked to do. Like if you do it, you're going to succeed.
Moving on to our next question, what is the right age to start? Oh, we already
We covered
asked.
that
Yeah.
already, but I say mid-college and beyond is a good age. As a rule of thumb, again, this is not engraved in stone, but that's a
So
general.
like sophomore, junior year of your undergrad?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because you already have gone through a year or two of college. You have learned the ropes around the college. You're not gonna flunk college,
Yeah.
and then you can start knowing what you're gonna do in the future, grad school or work or what. So now you're in a good position to start making those decisions. But again, the condition for that is your father of confession and your family.
We have another question that says, how will you know if you met the right person?
So
That's a very good question, but again, it's not for this age group, but for the future. You have to, first of all, if somebody, and this is something that you guys need to learn how to do. If you pray about this, ask God to guide you and help you make the right decision, and not let you make the bad decision. You seek God's guidance and will, and you talk to your father of confession, your parents, the people you trust, and they're all blessing and confirming that. Normally, that's God's way of approval. But if you are talking to somebody, your parents said that's not a good idea, your priest said it's not a good idea, your second cousin says it's not a good idea, your other cousin says it's not a good idea, your neighbor says it's not a good idea, and said, no, they don't know.
It's
So-
probably not a good idea.
So you're shutting everybody's open. And this happens. You're laughing about it, but it actually happens. Where the whole world is telling somebody, no, don't do that. And they shun it out.
And they're blinded.
They can't see it.
Delusional.
But usually if you have the blessing of your father confession and your family and the people close to you, most likely you're on the right track. Of course, if you found that there's issues and things are not fitting, that's when you go back to your father's confession and go talk about the issues and see, is this worth exploring, or is this something normal that happens normally? So Abuna will also tell you, this happens, normally, or this is a little bit unusual. You guys have to really evaluate this. So this happens later. So that openness is a key. So if you learn how to be open now, it's going to be much easier to be open later when you're dealing with bigger problems.
All right, thank you, Abuna, for this amazing episode. Guys, follow us across all platforms by finding us searching Teen Talk, and we'll be on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And we'll repost in 2 weeks our next video. And thanks so much, Abuna, for this episode.
Good to be here. Thank you, guys.